a warm welcome also from my side. So I think the first great thing is we got the first question even before I started speaking. So that's exactly how we want to have it. That's what makes it a live webinar. So I can just encourage everyone to continue and to add all your questions. Very good. Yeah, so as I said, I'm the global product manager for our programming tools and user interfaces. And when we started developing the AppStudio, I would say we had one goal in mind, and that was really to make the robotic integration as intuitive and as flexible as possible. Because I would say over the years, I've seen how challenging it can be to create the custom user interfaces, but also then get some good examples. And that is nothing for new people, but that is also something for very experienced developers. So that's why now we have this getting started AppStudio session today, and I have the honor to introduce you to the product and give you the rough overview. When we want to go into the super expert details, I will refer to them today. Then you have two chances. First of all, we recorded a webinar already. There's also another session tomorrow, more on the expert level. But then we will also have a training in January, and I will come back to this later in the session. Yeah, so with this, I would say thinking about what are kind of the main trends I have seen. So one thing is, as I said, the complexity of robotic integration. So I would say today, we still see that many tools are very, very tricky to be used. But on the other hand, we have the request for super user-friendly tools. And I would like to compare it a little bit with a piece of flat-packed furnitures. But very often on the robotic side, you get them without any instructions or without even any examples. So just a pile of parts and a vague sense of how it should be. But in the AppStudio, we said that is exactly how it should not be, but we should provide you actually the full support of how to do things for the robots, especially as I said on the user interface side. Then we see a quite big demand for customization. So I would say think about your smartphone. So very often, what's the first thing you're doing? I would say most of the people customize it. And customize it, yes, that can be the screen, but also it's really adding your most important apps to it, adding all the functions you need. And I think this is something we see more and more coming also on the robots, the need to actually customize it, personalize it, and really make it fit to the exact needs of the application and actually not have a one size fits all. And then last but not least, I think it's scalability. So I would picture this a little bit as a video game. So ideally, I mean, you start on the level 1, you're learning the basics, but when you get better, you also kind of unlock new levels, tougher challenges, but also cooler tools. And when we look at this from the product management, then I think the ambition is that our tools should scale with your knowledge. So wherever you are, you should be able to use the tools, and you should always be able to continue and to grow the parts you prepared before. And I think that is also one of the challenges we had on the AppStudio side, to really make it scalable for a lot of different users, but then also make it scalable from a super easy drag and drop interface, but then also be open for the super experts to realize their things as well. And I would say, yeah, we reached it. It's not as easy as making your morning coffee, but it's getting in the good direction. So AppStudio is a separate software. It fits well into the picture of the Robot Studio, desktop and cloud version. But then we also have our Flex Pennant, the user interface for the ABB robots. And for the ones who are asking, oh, but you also have the Wizard Easy Programming. Yes, this is basically an app running on the OmniCore Flex Pennant. And then basically in this trio, now we added the AppStudio on top, which is a standalone software. You can download it, and it's running on Windows devices so far. And basically, you install it on your PC, and you can connect it on one hand with the Robot Studio, but on the other hand also with the real robot, and at the end show the result also on the Flex Planet. AppStudio is working with all Omnicore powered robots and cobots, and it's made for people with all skill levels, as I said before. And from the application, we actually don't have any limit. So if it's machine tanning, if it's packaging, or if it's your very custom application, you can use AppStudio for it. So what are the elements and the parts of the AppStudio? And I will show it later in details how it's also working. But basically what you can see here is we have one area, it's called the user interface designer. So this is where you can create user interfaces, screens, or some people name it HMIs, for the robot, but then you can show those screens on a lot of different devices. Can be the Flex Panel, can be a tablet, can also be your phone. Then we have a small area inside. It's a component kit creator. I will show the details later on. And we have a bigger part of a cloud library. So here the ambition is to really share good examples, share templates. So you don't need to start from scratch, but actually you can start from a good example, from a template. And that is not limited just to user interfaces, but instead it's really open for all kinds of files. It can be CAD files, can be rapid examples, can be configuration files, can be wizard logs. So all of them will be available or are already available in the cloud library. As I said, you can connect to the virtual or real controller, and it's also available in a lot of different languages. So the AppStudio itself, you can change the language and really personalize it for you. So with this, I think talking about it, that's one thing, but I think I would also really like to show you it actually in action. So here I have a station Robot Studio, so a virtual robot with a gripper. And I think the first thing is, I mean, where or how do I communicate with my gripper? And when we go into the AppStudio, we have this cloud library, and ideally you find something to start with. So this is a growing library, and a lot of grippers have a TCP/IP, a socket communication. So here you can find an example. It's a rapid code at the end, showing you or giving you a template to do the TCP/IP communication. So you can download this from the library, use it in Robot Studio, and then maybe the next thing is that you want to create your custom interface. So also here you can start from a template, or you can start from a blank user interface. You can give it a name. You can decide if it should work for the Flex Planet, or if you also want to have a compact screen like for a phone, because here the design might look different. And you can directly add and decide which languages you want to create your user interface. And then it's basically a project you created. When you click on it, you have your blank web app, and then it's basically drag and drop. So you see we have a lot of components on the left side. Here we have, for example, the hamburger menu, because maybe you want to have several sections. And in this case, we want to create an interface for the gripper itself. So one part is of the hamburger menu is maybe the home, and another one could be the info. You can also choose your icon. So we have a quite big library in the background. So you can just search for an icon. In this case, might be the info, fitting to the info tab. And then you already basically have the main structure done. Next thing, maybe you want to add a picture. So here I just drag and drop the picture as well. And then I can decide for the size. I can choose the image. So here we have an image already. And then I want to have maybe a headline on the right side. So again, I just drag and drop a text element. I give it the content. So in this case, it would be finger gripper. I can change the font type and font size, and also maybe make it bold in this case. And then I also want to have two buttons, one for grip and one for release. So here I will show you also how the different languages work. So I can make it basically key. So I can say this is should show grip. And then I also give directly the English translation, and I'll show you later how to translate it then. I will not do it in this demo for every element where I have text, but if you want to translate it, of course you would do this. So then again, here I can change background color, I can change the font color, and because a lot of people have not seen it, you can also make the background color transparent, for example. So you can basically make it transparent. And what is transparent? So I mean, then you can really put it in a top of something, and I mean, it's looking through. In our case, we will not make it transparent, but you can also think about you want to have round edges on your button, or in our case, maybe let's make it sharp edges. So all those things are basically available, just super easy on the configuration side on the right side. Let's make it maybe a little bigger. Very nice. And then maybe the next step, we would just want to add the functionality. So in the past, the typical thing is you have a lot of typos. So we connect to the virtual controller. So I have a Robot Studio station running. And once I'm connected, I can select my procedure directly here in the dropdown. So I see all the procedures available on my robot, and I can just select. So 0 typos. And then I would just copy and paste it. And I would also give it a new key. So this would be the release and the English translation. So that would be called release in English as well. I press apply. And then I change all to the functionality because now we want to execute the release procedure. Then I add a container. What is the benefit of container? I can group multiple things together. I can also give it a headline. I could also make a different background color, whatever. In this case, I would name it signals. Also, again, I said I can change the font size, type, and also the position. And then I drop the let element, the one basically showing the signal, and also a text element. So in this case, I would like to show the signals for the gripper when the finger is fully open, and also the one when the gripper is fully closed. So I add the text here, that's one step. And then I would also like to connect the signal. So similar here as we've seen it with the procedure. I basically, I'm connected to the controller. So I have the full list of digital signals available. And I select the one, in this case, where the gripper is fully open. I can basically mark both of them, and then I copy paste. I can move it with my keyboard in small and big steps, or I can just drag and drop it with the mouse. And then here I just change it, finger fully closed, and I also change to the different signal. And as you can see, once everything is in the container, I can drag and drop the full container. So if I want to make changes, that's super easy. Then I go to the tab of the translation. And here I can basically just type my translation, for example, in German, because I added the German language. And then, as you can see here, I have the super easy preview. And you have seen I just did it with the keys for the grip and release. So that's why basically just this changed. The other text didn't change. So basically, if you work with the keys, then you have the super easy translation. And here you can see I deployed it to my virtual robot, so I can grip release directly here from the FlexPennant interface. The language would, by the way, change if I change the language of the FlexPennant itself. So you don't need to have any button to change separately, but when the FlexPennant language is changed, it's automatically there. Very often you want to have things on the screen depending on certain states, on certain inputs. So here, for example, the release should not work if I'm in automatic mode. So I add a state here, and I say when the signal of the automatic mode is 0, then I would go to a certain state. And I add the same. So I said, if I'm in automatic mode, then I would like to actually disable but still show the button. I could also just hide it. But in this case, I would still like to show it, but I want to give the hint that this button will just work if the customer is in the manual mode. So I can add this tip here. I can also change the style, so it's clear that actually the button is disabled. So I make it maybe a little darker, and then maybe also change a little bit the font color. So those are all things I can adjust, or also change the icon. I could change the text, but in our case, I think that's fine. If I deploy it, it's pushed to the robot, and then you can see here, when I'm in auto mode, this is not active. I get the hint. I get the hint also when I click. And then basically, if I switch to manual mode and I press enabling button, that is what you have to do in manual mode to actually execute something. Then I can again push the release button. But if I'm back into the auto mode, then the button will be disabled again. So here we go to auto mode. And then you can see the button is disabled again, and with the hint, switch to manual mode. Also, I can work on a compact screen. So here, first of all, I thought about a phone, but actually it was the wrong order. So now it's a wide screen, but I want to have a horizontal. So I can just go in. I can change the width and the height. So let's make it more phone-like. So you can see it here. And then I have all elements already inside. So here I made it a little quicker for you. But basically, I can rearrange all my elements fitting for the narrow screen. So also, of course, you have the line functionality and the backward if you do something wrong. So those are things you have as well. And then basically, you can really define how your screen looks like for something like a phone, for something where it's just narrow. Again, here, let's modify this a little bit, but the full functionality will or is already there. So you don't have to create another screen. It's basically the same one. Yeah, and then once you deploy it, you can also show it in the browser. I think that's one part. And when you go here into the developer mode, you can actually also show the different screens, how it will look like. So here, for example, you see when I have it very narrow and I upload it, then you have the screen for something like a phone. And in the same way as I've shown it in the browser, basically you can reach it later on your phone. So you connect to the robot network, and then you can show it on your phone. Here we have something else. I can create my own components to drag and drop them. And let's think about maybe in the info, I always have my name. I always want to have the customer info, and I always maybe want to have the logo of the customer. So in this case, I can create my own drag and drop component. So I'm in the component editor, and I put maybe the first text, maybe my name, or maybe it should be not just my name, but maybe made by or something like this. And then maybe I also want to have a second text saying what customer is it for. And I mean, my name will always stay the same, but the customer name will always change. So I put an XX here because I might not know which customer is it for. And then I also put a placeholder in my component. I could make the border invisible, but in our case, I think it's still nice to show this. So here in my component, I have a place where I can add more stuff. And then I can say, what are the things of my own drag and drop component which should still be available? So for example, I would like to still be able to change the customer name. So I add the property, a text property for the customer name or for this made for, and I bind it together with the text box here. So that is, I would say, a very easy component. I could add more stuff here as well. And then once I save this, here I have my full kit. I need to publish my kit so it's available. And then when I go back to my project, I can basically add all those kits. So you can also find some kits already in the library. But in this case, it's my own kit. And this is, for example, on the info screen. I just want to drag and drop this one inside So here, basically, you have now the picture, and maybe let me select whatever customer logo. And then also, as you see here, the property I selected before, I can basically now change this content, but everything else in the component is fixed. And then again, I can deploy it. I can push it to the real robot, and you can see here, basically it's there. Yeah, what else? I think very important is actually, I said before, it's scalable. So for the ones who said, I want to do more, you can access JavaScript. So for example, here, I added something that the picture will change depending on the robot module. So I created this function in the background, and now I say when this screen is mounted, then I want to add this functionality to check the robot type and actually adjust the picture. So when we go to our web app, here you go, the picture is adjusted, and that is something I put it in the home folder, a bunch of images, and depending on which robot type I get back from the controller, I can select which of the robot pictures is actually shown. Another thing is often those things just work basically if you also combine it with rapid code. So if you want to share your screen with someone, now you can basically import your modules and also configuration files, put it in the project, and when you share your project, you can share it directly together with basically the rapid code included. And if you want to, and I can just encourage everyone, it's also an opportunity that you share basically, you export your project and you can share it then in the cloud library. Because as I said before, the cloud library is something at the end where we can really grow. So here we can basically see if I go to the cloud library, and it takes a moment to connect here, but we have quite some elements inside, and it's really coming from around the world. And for me, I mean, it's very interesting to see because you have some examples where whatever someone created a meter like this, you can have some wizard blocks that was some early thing I provided, but then also you can find things, even things like whatever, somewhere there was a calculator, here you can find the calculator. So it's very, very interesting to see what people can do. And everything which is shared here, basically you can access. So if you go here and you create a new project, you can find all the templates you downloaded basically here, and you can start from them. So for example, here you have basically one where someone created a view for the Euler angles. So let's have a look how this looks like. Right here. So you can see this is a screen basically showing all those things. And if you just want to use this screen, great. You can just take it, you can deploy it to the robot. But if you want to change something, you can also basically go in here and make changes. So it's basically really open to you to use it, to modify it, really depending on your needs. If you want to have translation, same here, you can just add the translation. So I think those are great opportunities. Sometimes I get the question kind of how complex can a screen be? And I think I would go for one example. So if I create a new project, you can find a palletizing template inside. So if I just create this, this already exists, okay. Then you can see in this screen, basically here we have, for example, a main hamburger menu. You have then a lot of things inside. And then there are certain things I would say where, yes, you still need to have some JavaScript knowledge. And in this case, I would say they put it really to extreme of what you can do. Because when you look in the function area, you can see a lot of functions which are also used. But here again, it's open for you, so you can have a look how all this is built. And if you just want to copy parts of it, that's also really your chance here. And I get a lot of smaller requests also, is this available via drag and drop? So as you can see, we are also constantly adding more features. So we have a slider now, we have the radio buttons, More things are really drag and drop to implement. For example, maybe let me jump back, or let me create a new project. So for example, also here, if I add a table, I can directly fill the table from a rapid array. So all those things are ready. But if you want to add your own stuff, then you can, as I said, either create the function in the function area, or you can directly add the functionality here. So let's say when I click on the button, I want to create my functionality, and I can add it here. And if you want to know how to write it, I mean, here we have the direct link to the API documentation that also really gets some upgrade. So you find a lot of real code examples to copy and paste directly in this API documentation. So even so, you said, I never worked with JavaScript before, maybe have a look inside, use the search functionality, and you might be able to really just copy and paste and still do it, even so it's not drag and drop. But I said most of the things, or for I would say 90% of the screens we see, we actually have the drag and drop ready. So let me jump back to this one. I think here are some more examples of how a user interface can look like. So that can start aside from a super easy interface, selecting which coffee to get for a demo. Very often on a demo, you need to have the nice interface, but then we also see it a lot for components added, for grippers, for tracks, for all of those things where you need to do some manual setup. That's super easy to directly do it on the Flex panel. But then, as said, you can also configure a full palletizing application. And as we've seen, it's basically a website running on the robot controller. So this website can be accessed from multiple devices, from the Flex panel, of course, but also from a tablet, from your PC, from a mobile phone, so whatever you connect to the internal network of the robot. There is another option. So we also see that some suppliers basically come with their own website, web server on board. So this is common for some cameras, also for welding sources and so on. So here, basically, you can also create a web app on the AppStudio. So if you create a new project and you say project with a web server, then you basically just need to give it the URL. And then you have your own icon on the Flex panel linking directly to the web server. So for example, on the camera here, you can then see whatever the camera already provides out of the box. For the ones already work with it and are super deep insight, then I give just one super short recommendation to be able to really show this website in a very good way. You need to have a browser on the Flex panel itself, and this browser is something we updated to a newer version. So if you work with the latest robotware, then basically you should already have this mode. But if you're working with earlier versions, then have a look in the settings in the web app mode, and you should select the Chromium mode. And that will be the default anyway, also in the future. As said, for the palletizing, we also really have the template ready in the cloud library. And it's not just the interface, because if you download the example of the palletizing, you will also get even the Robot Studio station. You will get the whole rapid code as an example for configuring this whole palletizing. So in the cloud library, it's not just about the user interfaces, but it's really a place where we can share all kind of examples to get started with. To actually, let's stop this starting from scratch, but let's really share and build this community. To save a lot of time together. If you need to get help, first of all, we have our robotics user forum. But also, if you go into the help area of the AppStudio, you can find the link to some e-learnings, but then also this contact us. So here you basically reach out directly to the developers. So if you have a feedback, positive, but of course also some improvements, then feel free to use it. And also, release notes are here as well. So I would say, to recap a little bit, there are the 5 super key functionalities, and I think the first is really the drag and drop. For 90% of the screens we've seen out there, it's really drag and drop, easy design. So nothing to write in JavaScript, but you can really succeed to create your own screen in a very, very fast way. It's directly working, as I said, on multiple screen sizes. So if you have to create a UI, which also is work on a flex panel or tablet on PCs, I mean, that's just coming out of the box. The translation, as I said, is nothing you really need to care about. If you add it early on, if you work with the keys, then you can just translate it. And here we also added basically a new functionality. So if you go inside here and into the translation, you can see here that you can also export the translation file. So for example, to get it checked by someone, or let's say you add a new language. So we could go here, manage languages, whatever. Let's say we add some Chinese, we add some Swedish maybe. So you see it's empty now, but if I export it, I can give it to someone, I can get it translated, or I mean, I can use whatever AI can do this in a very good way, and I can import the translation back. So that is also a very fast way to actually get it translated, or at least to get the content checked by someone else. Yeah, and then as I said, expert coding. The clear ambition is that when you start on the AppStudio side, you should be able to grow. You should be able to bring it to a level where your application actually requests it. So if the drag and drop is not enough, you still have the possibility to go into JavaScript to add more functionality. And here, I mean, it's a quite big range where you can actually really do your stuff. Second here, also as said, with creating your own component, this is something which will grow even further. You will get more out of the box components provided in the cloud library. And I think that is the last part. The cloud library, as it's growing, will provide and will really scale the value provided to you. I think that is from Edwin Peters. One comment: it's quite easy to visualize a robot cell on the new OmniCore Teach panel, and I think that's exactly our ambition. Because I get a lot of questions, what's the price for it? And the good news is that's actually really something which is for free, because our ambition is to enable you to make it easier for the users. Because at the end, if you succeed in a faster way, I mean, at the end, we will also sell more ABB robots. So that is basically here really a tool to enable you to succeed. So how can you get actually started with AppStudio? I mean, first thing is we have 2 e-learnings, one for beginner, one for experts. That's also free of charge. So you can go in there and basically use both of them. It's linked from the AppStudio tab in the help section, so easy to reach as well. And then we also have classroom trainings, typically for the programming. Those are usually paid trainings locally. So yeah, go there, but then you really have a trainer helping you, looking into your use cases also. And we have something very special coming up. So first time we have like a global pilot. So we will have a global training online for AppStudio, but also together with the Wizard Easy Programming, a little bit with a focus on experts. What can you actually do? So this will be a half-day training online. And if you scan this QR code, you can basically already register. The page is up and running. So this is, I would say, a great opportunity in January next year. So if you want to dig more into the details, you don't want to get into the e-learning, then this will be a training you can participate. And since it's a first pilot, it's also for free. But typically, I mean, the training is still something where we'd say, okay, there's also quite a big value in it for some separate payment. how to get it? Yeah, if you Google AppStudio ABB, you should find it. We have a web page, and basically you go to the web page, and there you download the AppStudio. As said, it's an Excel file, so make sure you have the admin rights on your PC, or check with your IT department to actually get it installed. So I think that is one thing to keep in mind. And with this, I've seen that Raul already did a super great job. Super thanks to Raul to answer a lot of questions. But do we still have questions open so far?
Yes, I see Raul has been working hard to answer the questions. I think we can go through some of them verbally as well. I don't know how you want to run this, but I will just pick a question and then we can just respond to it again, and you can relate to what you answered in the chat as well. So I will just go ahead and start with the questions here. So a question from Benedict. When connected via the network connection via mobile phone, etc., can I only show the page or also control the app with the robot controller? Will be interesting for safety, etc.
Yes, so I would say, first of all, Raul already did a great answer. So yes, you can do this. Safety perspective, I think that is really something to think about this from an integrator point of view. So if you create this page, if you allow this, then yes, you need to think about what to do safety-wise. And I think when we talk about a lot of cobot applications, you have the safety set up, then you can probably use it from different devices and even execute a motion. If you don't want this, then I think it's really also to think about how your safety looks like and what do you put on the screen, and if you also want to limit it. But yes, you can access it.
One addition to the answer will be the web apps during the execution. It is recognized if they are in an internal client, a local client, which is the flex pendant, and an external client, which will be an iPhone. And there are some functionalities that are not allowed with the external client, for example, motion. Therefore, you need to be in the local client due to the deadman switch in order to be able to work with motion. So generally speaking, you have the same access possibilities, but there are a couple of exceptions also due to safety, in which you will require more advanced access, which could be possible, but that will require really another type of access, which at the moment is not yet available.
I would say it's super similar like when you have a PLC. Also there on the PLC, like the manual job, as Raul said, is just available if you press the admin switch. But if you want to start a program and you allow this in the user grants, then this is something you can still do. So for example, executing like a procedure, that is, for example, still something if you have the grants, which is possible.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you both. Moving along with the questions here, we had a question come in from Julian. If I have more than one HMI, two different applications, how can I load rapid program corresponding to the application automatically when I start the HMI?
Yeah, I would say there are different ways. So I think in general, the idea is always that we have this back and forth. So for example, coming from the other way around, if you have your rapid line, you can have a rapid line which actually says show my screen. So that is the other way around. From rapid, you can show a screen. If you say, when I open my screen, I want to, for example, load a module or unload a module, then I would say it's really looking into the API, because I know that for loading a module, we have also some parts there. And then I would actually say, when you have, let me maybe quickly show, maybe let's reuse the one we had before. So here, basically, under behavior, you can add something when your whole web app is created. So in this case, for example, you could add then at the end your own JavaScript functionality to load a module when you load your screen. That's actually possible, yes.
Mm-hmm. Nice, thank you very much. Can I change the speed of the grip movement?
I would say that first of all depends on your gripper. So if the
Yeah.
gripper has a functionality that you can change the speed, then the question is how is it implemented? And I mean, for some grippers that might be a variable in the rapid. For some that might be a whatever. It can be a certain signal, can be analog, can be a group signal. And if this is available on the robot side, yes, then you could have a slider and you could connect the slider to the speed of the robot gripper. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. There's a question from Daniel. Can you also use arrays with visual components like LEDs or buttons?
Yes. You can access arrays or any kind of rapid variable you can access, included arrays, and you can subscribe to what I will say. At the moment, there is no by selection possibility to really get the whole data. You will need to do it via the API in order to get the object representing your array. So in the API, there is a domain for rapid, and there you can say get variable value. And with that, you get the whole array into the web app world. And once you get it, you can access every single entry of your array and use the value as you wish. And in order to influence your single elements in your web app, there is a global instance variable. It's called instance. And then you say instance dot, then the name of your instance that you want to influence. And then you can access the properties of this element. For example, if it is an input field, you can say dot text and then equal, and then you put wherever you need to put there and so on. So in this way, you can go from single array elements to single instance and do whatever in between.
Yeah, and for example, for text, here we actually have the hire request. There you already have the drag and drop functionality for arrays. So if you want to show whatever one part of the array in a text field, that is already something you could just select on the drag and drop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Then there's a question from Frederick. It's about HMI, and it's a two-part question. Since the AppStudio is to create HMI for robot operators, how can you control user access for different pages you create? And the second part is, can you lock the flex pendant down so that the operator can only access the HMI that you create and no other functions of the flex pendant?
I would say, first of all, locking it down. I mean, we have quite some user grants to lock certain things, whatever, just to execute the existing rapid code, not to exit other things. So I would say on the what is possible, how to lock it down, I would say it's really looking into all the different user grants. That's maybe the first part of the answer.
Via the API, one have from the web app side the possibility to get this information. One cannot change that from the web app side, but one can read the current status. So normally it is recommended when one start up the web app in the first uncreated somehow to use this kind of API functionalities to become aware what is what are the grants available, and then based on that you can influence your independent elements by showing or hiding them. Each element has its own functionality, its own function called hide or show, and with that you could really hide part of your HMI depending of the grants that you have.
Yeah. Also, you would say not drag and drop yet. It's possible. We have the request to make this drag and drop, but that's in the backlog.
Great, thank you. So we're getting some great questions here. So let's continue. Jorge wants to know, is there any setup in AppStudio to see the cloud components? I can't see. I got the message that I have to check my internet connection.
There is
Then
no
I would
special
say another
setup.
refresh.
Yeah, so something's going wrong with the access to the network. I will recommend to check also the firewall if there is no going in between. But normally there is no special setup for that.
Okay, so it's on the user end then. So yeah, it's a very specific question. So let's move on to another one here.
Super quickly, maybe one comment. If it's not working at all, then you can check on the network to actually change it here. So we have basically 2 servers. So if you change this, it might improve it. We have seen it in very, very, very few cases, but usually I would say, yeah, you should be able to see it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Katja. Daniel asks, is there a possibility to open this project in VS Code to get access to tools like OpenAI Codex to help with the development in JS?
There is a backdoor way to do that. Normally, when you create a project in the same folder, everything is deployed locally in a folder, and you get access there to the single files for each function. For example, any function you create, there is going to be from the version 1.0, you have single files generated to really host this code, and then you could open all that with your VS Code. And you can modify it in order to make it effective. You need to close the project and open the project, and then the change are reflected in your AppStudio. So it's at the moment it's not functionality is not supported from the tool, but it's allowed somehow. So you could do that and take this advantage for sure. It is. I'll do that by myself, and it's helpful sometimes to really get out at the code level.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you very much. Another question here. Is it possible to have one button that can make multiple signals go high or low depending on the need, and also check input signals? Or do I have to make a rapid program for that?
I mean, one thing is rapid program. The other thing is, as I said, you connect it to the on-click event of the button. And there, actually, if you go to the e-learning tutorials, we have an example also how to do this on the JavaScript level. But if you want to do multiple with one button, yes, either on rep level or in JavaScript.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Next question from Marcus. When I try to change the state of an output, it only works in the Flex pendant, not in the browser. How can I fix this?
Yeah, first question, I would say, which version are you using? Make sure you're using the last version, because I've seen this earlier, but I've not seen this in the last version. If so, then I would say it must be a bug. Then please send it and contact the development team directly. It should work.
One comment on that. Well, I'm not sure about what are the limitations depending of the category of the access level of the signal that you are accessing.
That could be another, yeah.
The access level there can be default, all, and there are all different kind of access, and depending of this access level of the signal, the limitations vary. So to get access from every client, you need to use the access level all.
Yeah, and so basically here, if you're in the configuration of the signals, then make sure it's set to all here. That could actually be a good reason, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. Some nice tips and tricks there for you, Marcus, but if it doesn't work, reach out to us. You know how to get a hold of us, so we'll be happy to support. Moving along with the questions, I want to create buttons with multiple mutually exclusive states based on, for example, a sensor on-off combined with disable enable. In behaviors, is there a possibility to use logical operators to combine multiple signals or variables? Or do I always have to create an update and an intermediate variable?
Yeah, I would say those are exactly the two variants. So either do it on the robot level that you prepared and you just send one variable to the screen, or going down to the JavaScript where you can write your logic as well, but then it's JavaScript. We can't combine on the drag and drop level different states yet.
There is additionally, it may help in a lot of situations. Each element inside AppStudio, in the tab in the right property section under behavior, you have also the possibility to add states, and these states you can connect it to a variable value. So you can, for each independent element, define how it should react. You can use signals or you can use variables as well. And then you can define the reaction of your single element depending on the variable.
Yeah, but if
For
you
a
have
simple logic, that will be enough.
Yeah, but if you have multiple things like in auto mode and this variable is true and something else, then it's
For a
JavaScript.
more advanced, you will need to create the logic, and then you have, for each element, you have also to do this state, for example, to hide it, to show it, to enable or disable. There are properties for each element to make it that programmatically.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you for explaining. Moving on, do you have any application examples where AppStudio is used where you already have another HMI available? Our machines already have HMI screens for the operator interaction, so I would like some ideas for how AppStudio can fit in those scenarios.
I would say the first thing is actually really go to the cloud library. I think that's the first thing, but then let me super quickly check something. I will say I will come back quickly after the next question.
Yep. So dig into that. We can move to another question while you do that. So the question is from Roland. Can I transfer the app from ABB App Studio directly to my iPhone, or do I have to go through the Apple App Store?
At the moment,
it's a website basically running on the robot controller. And basically, since the website is on the robot controller, the only thing you do on the screen is actually showing it. So you don't need to deploy it in any app store. So it's really like you connect to the robot, and that can be, I mean, via cable, but that can also be you have a router on the management board, and then you can basically, or put it in your internal network, and then you can show this directly.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Thank you, Katja. Another quick here from Julian. Is it possible to open a PDF file, for example, to allow operators to open user procedures?
I will say that's on the long list. I would say stay tuned.
Yep. Good. So there's a question from Paolo. I would like to better understand how to resize an image with the AppStudio project, because on the actual TP, the inserted image does not have the size that I programmed.
Currently, you should, when you drag and drop an image element, you can resize it to have the desired dimensions. And there are three options for how the image fills the container. Katja, can you share the AppStudio maybe to take a look?
Yeah, so I think probably the first thing is to say, is it fill or is it contain? Let me go back to the gripper. So here, I mean, if you say fill, it's basically stretching it. If you have the contain or you have the cover. So I think that is the first thing to check.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say maybe on the responsive side, the question is the size you selected initially really fitting the flex pennant? Because otherwise, I mean, it should actually do the resizing. Yeah, I would say those are the first questions. If this is not true, then I would say also, yeah, get in contact.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. At least some tips to try to troubleshoot that. Thank you. Then there's some follow-up questions here, and one is about if there were any plan to make the use of VS Code or other editors more usable. As a first step, there could be a button to reload the file inside the AppStudio, so you don't need to close AppStudio and then open it again.
I would say the request is there,
Yeah.
but I would say it's not the most urgent thing for now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the idea is in this future at some point the coexistence will work more seamless. But at the moment, some steps has been done to make it possible in the way that really the code is structured in a way that one can find it also without any issue. But yeah, the proper functionality is still in the backlog.
And I would say the main reason here is, I mean, if you really open up all the code, then I mean, it's super easy for someone also to really change a lot of stuff. And then, I mean, it's a question, how do we handle it to really bring it back? So therefore we said, I mean, we provide the possibility inside. I know there are benefits of using other tools, but still also, I said, it's coming with quite a big risk to change on a lot of other areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, understandable. Thank you. Let's see. We have a few minutes left here in our time, so let's move along with some more questions. Can you talk about calling project from simple applications to complex multi-robot systems?
Yep. So I just did an interface for one of our multi-move interface with the 3 robots. I mean, you put it on one robot, but if the robots talk to each other, then yeah, you can still access the different tasks. Yeah.
Yes.
Super quickly to show here also, there was a request for some examples. So here we have, I mean, some on the big automotive side. We have some things where you just select components. I would say we have some where, yeah, it's really like a super easy demo. Then we have very often the request of really where we integrate things like a gripper, like different elements like a safe door in this case to do the configuration. But then also we have, I would say, even in-house some things for 3D printing where you do the whole setup for 3D printing. But then also very similar for arc welding, for spot welding. But then also it can be really just on a very specific thing for the robot. So I think on really the applications, whenever you want to give some input, you want to show something, then there's a need. And as I said, the other is really like going into the library to have a look.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you, Katja. So one more question then. This is the last one we have in the chat right now, so it will be perfect timing. And so this one is it also possible to open the web app via the WAN port firewall adjustment for robot web services?
Not yet, but we have a lot of requests on this, so it's in the backlog. Stay tuned.
All right. So a lot of good suggestions here, and I'm glad to hear that it's already on your list. So now you have even more input to add to that to try and prioritize. I'm sure you're working hard on the next steps for AppStudio here. That's it for this session. Before we close, I'd just like to hand it back to you, Katja, for some final thoughts or perhaps some key takeaways from this session.
Yeah, I would say thanks a lot. It's very great that we have this interaction. So I think that's what makes it a live webinar, actually. Big thanks to Raul for already answering quite a lot of them.
Welcome.
And I think I could just encourage everyone to try it. Even if you've never used this, you can succeed in actually really drag and drop and creating your first user interface. It's made for everyone. But then, as I said, also for the experts, don't be afraid. There are really quite a lot of possibilities you have. You can go to a quite advanced level in it. So I think that is really the ambition to make it grow. I can just encourage everyone to also share in the cloud library, because that is what makes actually all of us strong together. And then, I mean, last but not least, as I said, if you have more topics, please reach out, because also I would say the great development team in the background is happy to get the feedback from the front end, and they're super active on also really reacting on this. Of course, we have to set some priorities, but yeah, I think that is really something well appreciated.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you, Katja.